Hi guys, back again with this Kalk King from efins.com. Thought we'd just pop it open and just have a little closer look. I did email the seller about the issues that I felt were not really acceptable, and bear in mind also that I had contacted this seller a year or two ago with a view to possibly importing these, so you would think that if anyone was going to get a good one they would send it to me, but yeah, no, not the case. Apparently my comments pretty much were replied to with a yeah, in the next model, all those issues will be sorted. Who knows, but it doesn't help me. My comment about this being broken with that crack in it was answered to by the response of, well, unfortunately the plug doesn't go through the hole that's drilled in there, so this has been cut to allow the unit to be assembled. I mean, that's not a cut, is it? That's just like it's been split open. You would think that you could cut that neatly, assemble it, put a little drop of whatever fish marine safe glue you can use and squeeze it together and get a nice finish. Instead you've got this sort of broken look to it, which I thought was pretty bad really, but there you go. That's the reason it's done. It's so they can fit the plug through the hole. Right, so a little close-up of the internals there. You can see I'm just going to read out what we've got. Obviously that is the pH probe coming in, and that is going out to the pH meter, and then we've got the float switch, bypass pump, feed pump, and then the mix pump, and then we've got the power in here. That is that tiny little switch that I really don't think is going to last very long. I suppose once it's in use and it's turned on, you're never really going to be using that. And there's another one on the other side of the board here, and that one is to set the pH probe to active or to put it into calibration mode. So by default the Kalk King is not set up to use the pH probe. That's just to keep it as simple as possible for most users when they go to install the Kalk King. Obviously I should imagine everybody would want to get it working based on the pH readings. That's the whole point I've got it. So once it's up and running and we've checked through all the settings, we'll switch it to pH probe mode, and hopefully over the coming months we'll raise the pH until we get to the correct level. Something else that's got to be done very slowly, and depending on how much you've got to go up, I would certainly do it over a week or two, depending on the value you've got to go up by. So there's 3 ICs on here. The first one just tucked in there next to the BNC connectors is just a 2171A op amp. Obviously that's being used with the inputs and outputs. The next one there is the main PIC microprocessor. It's a 12F617, so nothing unusual there. These power transistors that are doing all the switching are O3N, O3LBs, again pretty standard transistors. And just tucked in here near the power socket you've got a 7660S, and it is what they call a super voltage converter. That can take, I think it's between 3 and 30 volts input, and you can use it as a voltage doubler. You could put 5 volts in and produce plus and minus 5 volts very simply, and all that sort of thing. These are all standard ICs, nothing unusual. Let's see if we can get a little close up of that board there for you. So yeah, all standard stuff. Yep. And pretty much nothing on the back. I noticed that some of the parts have been hand soldered, not brilliantly. BNC connectors, the rotary encoders, some of the switches have been hand soldered. Not the best, but adequate. And that was that. So back cover. You'll notice inside the case we've got all of that. I don't know what it is. It's don't know. It's all that muck that I've got on the front just here. I know I'm being a bit picky, but this is 200 and something quid. So can't we expect a good quality, clean, unscratched unit? I think we should be able to expect that. And just to reassemble that, there's a couple of channels, and you just push that in. You remember I said one of the knobs here was proud. Well, actually it's just because it hadn't been pushed on far enough, so I was being a little unfair on that. You can see there that one of them is a little bit too high, but I'm not going to try unsoldering it to push it down a bit. It's just not worth the aggro. Then you put the back cover on, and then you've got the 4 screws to go back in there, and we'll be good to go. I have already fired this up just to make sure it's not dead, and it will activate the one pump, then another pump, and then it will activate this mixing paddle there. The seller also mentioned about my concern that this is going to shake its head off, and he says it only spins for a few seconds every however many minutes, but it certainly made some good vibrating noises when I tested it out of the water. Perhaps in the water when it's mixing up the kalkwasser, it's not going to be an issue, but that's something we're going to test in a little while. We're going to fill up some containers with water for the pumps, and we're also going to fill up the main chamber with water, and we'll just fire it up, get it through its start sequence, and just see how noisy that is. You'll recall I said about these adapters being useless because they don't have the correct UK plugs. I managed to find some adapters on Amazon, next day delivery, £3 or £4 each, but they are a really good tight fit, so not a problem. The only thing you'll probably find is if you're trying to plug these into a socket bar, this is overhanging the plug, so you're not going to be able to get them in. You'll probably lose the socket next to it because of this. A little bit annoying, but hey, we'll work around it. So 2 of those, and that's one for the main unit, and you can also run the pH probe either on the batteries that are included, the button batteries, or you can plug in the adapter. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that in here. Obviously if it's a permanent fixture, it's best, might as well use the mains power. That's as far as we've got with that. We're going to test that in some water next, and we'll probably film that, and depending on the noise level, that will really determine whether I use it on the Kent Marine tank or whether it's going to be a sump only on the new Aqua One Reef 400. And talking about the Aqua One Reef 400, we bought one about 2 months ago now, and it's going to turn into a long-term project. We took advantage of a discount that was on it at the time. Having said that, I think the discount's still running, and I think it was $11.99, I think, down from $1,500. And I'm going to do a video having a closer look at that, and some of the things I'm no surprise pretty disappointed with. When it was being installed, I managed to run my finger along it and cut it, I cut my finger, that is, because of some nasty sharp pieces, and some of the finishing leaves a lot to be desired at that sort of price range. Unfortunately, we've gone for the black cabinet, so it's pretty tough to film, but I'm going to try and work out some lighting so you can all have a closer look at that. Going to try and do that today, and also this one today. So yeah, long-term project is the new Aqua One Reef 400. I'm hoping we'll get some suggestions on which way to go with that, whether we should use the original equipment and try and keep it as quiet as possible, or whether we should do what I think we should do, is just ditch the whole setup we've been given apart from the tank, and spend the next year purchasing all the best bits and pieces we can for it. But yeah, that's for another video, and just wanted to update you on this Kalk King. Catch you later.